Hello, I'm Chip Nataro from Lafayette College, and thanks for joining us in this week's Ionic Viper nanoCHAT. It's spring 2022, and we're talking with Wes Farrell and Shirley Lynn of the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis. And we're talking about what it's like teaching inorganic for the first time. In particular, we're talking about MO diagrams this week. So what have you learned about it?
So Wes and I had so many conversations this week, great conversations, but we were trying to figure out what we wanted to cover and how much. And fortunately, we have the support of the Ionic Viper community, and we settled upon less group theory, more of the intuitive symmetry approach. And it's great that you're host this week, Chip, because you and Adam have a book chapter teaching MO theory better. And then Adam has a JCE article and some LOs up on the Viper site. And all of these will be linked to the description of the video and YouTube, so you can find them. But overall, we just decided that the intuitive approach, less of the math, more of focusing on the symmetry. And also, we made a decision to try to not do too many ligands that have lone pairs, because I think that just makes the diagrams look really complicated. And we want the students to get the essentials and not worry too much about the messiness that can happen.
Hydrides are wonderful things.
Yeah, so yeah, Shirley and I agreed on that, and I think a more mathematical approach could be really fun in the future. But it's the first time doing this, and I was a little hesitant to shake things up too much. So I thought this more intuitive approach was going to be the best way to do it now, and then maybe in the future we try to get a little bit more into the group theory of it. And it also allows us to do it in a bit of a shorter period of time. So we're still going to be able to fit in everything else we want to, but we can still discover the MOs of some simple polyatomics with hydrides, like you mentioned, Chip. So things like ammonia and water. And also just show them today, what I'm planning on showing them today, I should say, is how this is really a theory of bonding that explains what we observe in the real world. So as I'm going to show them these MOs or get them to hopefully generate them on their own, we're going to look at the photoelectron spectra and see that these bonds are not all created equal in water. They are actually at different energies. And then I'm going to show them, ammonia, and then I plan on showing them an example from the literature from polychiric where they're activating the NH bonds in ammonia by coordinating to molybdenum, and then get them to realize the only way that's happening is because the BZ squared orbital is A1 symmetry and the LUMO is A1 symmetry as well. So we're getting that back bonding effect, and that's weakening these bonds by populating anti-bonding orbitals. I'm not going to go too in depth with it. I'm not going to expect them to be able to get that back to me in an exam or something, but really just show them that this is a very full and complete picture of how bonding occurs. And then also, throw in a shameless plug for my organometallics course next semester, and hopefully some of them will find that interesting enough to join.
Nothing wrong with shameless plugs at all.
Absolutely
sure.
not.
Yeah, this is an area that I've changed a lot over the years. When I started eons ago, like we taught homonuclear diatomics in Gen Chem, and eventually a few years back, it was like, why? So we got rid of that. It's now kind of exclusively my domain. And over time, in a lot of discussions with Adam, I've added the group theory component to my sophomore inorganic class. It serves as a nice kind of introduction and building block into MO theory. And then we hit on it a bit more mathematical in my senior level inorganic class. So it's definitely something that has and continues to morph. And maybe I'll even mention a little bit more about that in a little while. So what else is going on this week?
Yeah, I was just curious to follow up on what you said, Chip. How long do you spend in your sophomore course on MO theory? Because I know that reading some of the things that are on Viper, Adam said he sometimes takes like 4 or 5 weeks to really do it justice, and we're not taking quite that long. So a good question is like, how much of a 14 or 16 semester course should we devote to MO theory?
You should devote as much as you devote. I usually do about, I'd say it's 3 weeks, kind of soup to nuts for everything. And then probably in my senior level course, they get another 2.5, 3 weeks. So overall, somewhere in the 6 range over 28 weeks. It's definitely a topic that I think, you kind of stick your toe in and get a little feeling for what's going on. And seeing it again and again and again makes it sink in a little bit better, because it's weird that first day you discuss antibonding orbitals is just boom.
Yeah, speaking of seeing things again, I was reminded this week, we both gave our first exam on Wednesday. And some students came to office hours beforehand, and we're having a nice conversation. But one of the things I realized, right, is that we're teaching the current juniors. And the juniors, along with our senior chemistry majors, are the ones that have been the most affected by the pandemic in terms of their progress, like through these courses. And the students that I was chatting with, they were saying how surprised they were how much organic was in inorganic. Now they're putting these labels on there. Well, I think what they meant is like structure and bonding, which I don't associate with, having labels to the subdisciplines. But some of them were saying how hard it was for them to really do the structure part. And that was sort of something I'd assumed that they'd seen enough of in organic that it was comfortable. So it was a really good reminder that this is something we have to take into account this semester as we're moving forward.
For sure.
Yeah, and I've noticed that there really is a weak foundation for some of them, with some things that I think I took for granted that they would have strong foundations in. So I'm going to try to keep that in mind moving forward, because I'm not sure if it was the disruption from virtual learning, or perhaps they just haven't seen it in a while and they needed more time with it. But things that I thought they would be pretty good with just right off the bat, like VSEPR theory and hybridization. Some of them still seem to struggle with that, and it became apparent as we got close to that exam and they started asking more questions. So like I said, I don't know if that's because of the disruption or if they just have had so much happen. They're a very busy population, so maybe they just had so much going on they've forgotten about it. But moving forward, the next time I'm going through this, I'm not going to take that for granted. So I think it's been a learning experience for me as well, just to not make those types of assumptions. Just because they've seen it in their freshman level course doesn't mean they're going to be experts on it right away.
And, there's the collective brain dump that happens at the end of those courses where, oh, I'll never need this again, for sure. But yeah, no, I feel for students that are going through some tough times trying to keep all this straight and online learning and those sorts of things. I'm glad I have mine back in the classroom and we're talking about MO diagrams. We mentioned earlier shameless plugs, so I've got an opportunity here. I will jump in and make two. On this topic, Adam and I are giving a talk at ACS in San Diego this spring, and we're actually going to do a little extension on Slither 28, which happened. You can check our YouTube channel for that, by Ulrich Feckel on SD hybridizations, where we're going to present unpublished work at an ACS meeting. Crazy. But we're doing some pictorial extensions into d orbitals. At least that's what we're planning right now. So, hey, this was a great little chat. I'm glad it sounds like things are going pretty well. This is something that every time you teach MOs, you get a little more insight into what they get, what they don't get. And yeah, it's a tough concept. Antibonding, it just hurts. It just hurts, for sure. So feel free to make comments about the nanoCHAT on Discord, or maybe in the comments on YouTube. And next week, we're going to hear about something. I don't know what we're going to hear about next week.
I think we're starting solids.
Solids. Oh, that's pretty close to where I am. So that sounds about right. Wait, I thought you couldn't walk into inorganic classes and be at the same point in any two classes. You're following me. Don't do that.
Well, thanks for hosting.
Yeah, thank you, Chip. Great to see you.
Yeah, no problem. Good to see you both. Hope that works and you don't have to edit too much. Enjoy your weekend.